unity for Trump, unity in service of Trump, unity in surrender to Trump, unity in servile obedience to Trump, but not unity for the people in the country who felt insulted and left out by a lot of this stuff. Listen, if this is the unity you're talking about, it's a unity that scares me.
Unity in the streets, divisive in the sheets.
As for Nikki Haley, I'd just say this. We have enormously challenging times in our country right now. And what we need are leaders who have the courage of their convictions. And what we saw in her speech tonight was neither courage nor convictions. It was really tortured ambition. And she was on that stage because she's tortured by her own ambition.
Oh, good gravy. The left and never-Trumpers are at it again, telling the American people not to believe what they're seeing for their very own eyes. Unity within the Republican Party at the RNC, and some are even going as far as to question Trump's ear injury. Watch this.
If he was shot by a high-caliber bullet, there should probably be very little ear there. And so we'd like to know that. Is there cosmetic surgery involved? What is the prognosis for recovery? Were there stitches? What is the extent and nature of the damage to his ear? Was it caused by a bullet, as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet?
Here with me live at the RNC, Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth, along with Fox News contributor and SiriusXM Patriot Radio host David Webb. Pete, I'm going to come to you first. I mean, Michael Steele, hearing him talk about whether there was an injury or not to Donald Trump's ear, minimizing the fact that a bullet grazed within an inch of killing the president. I can tell you, my blood boils when I see that.
Big time. Not just minimized, but their whole side of the aisle is full of people who are denying that it actually happened. Hashtag stage idea. They're afraid. They're playing it down because they're afraid of the empathy or the sympathy. Heaven forbid there be sympathy for a man who got shot at because of the failures of his own Secret Service. There are no depths to which the Democrat Party, deep enough to which they're willing to go after this guy. And by the way, I've fired, it sounds like it's a 5.56, right? You hit a clean shot, you can have a pretty small entry hole. And so it doesn't. This guy, he probably thinks that the bullet immediately explodes on impact, right? That's the characterization of the left. These automatic rifles that explode on. He knows nothing about rifles.
It's not much bigger than a 22.
No, it's not much. It's a very small entry wound. It depends on what happens once it enters, but it went straight through, so you might have something that's pretty small.
No doubt. I find it interesting, David Webb, the conversation by the left also, it's about a surrender to Donald Trump. It's not about, surrendering, a unity around the American people. And again, I listen to the speeches here. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about common sense ideas that are going to make our country stronger and more prosperous and greater. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about America.
Well, I mean, the themes are make America, then you add safety, you add strong, great again. Look at what it is about. It's about America. By the way, Michael Steele has no soul, because this is the man who said that when a 12-year-old was raped and murdered in Houston, it was just 1 in 11 million. So he gets no credibility. And to be clear, this was an assassination attempt. Regardless of how else, it was an assassination attempt that led to the death of a man who was trying to protect his family. 2 people are still severely wounded, being treated. So let's not forget this. President Trump, among the wounded, thankfully not killed. As far as the unity, let me take it outside the RNC. There's unity here. There's resolve. Matter of fact, resolve overcoming the anger against the left. Resolve to do the right things about policy. But also, from my audience outside, calling in as I broadcast from here, we're talking about people who are unified outside the RNC. And the Democrats fear that. They fear that there is unity in America, alignment on issues. Pete, how many times have we talked about the border, the economic issues, domestic security, national security? I mean, come on. They don't like the fact that Americans see on full display a contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump and issues and policies over just their own agenda.
And to that point, you look at this issue set, and there couldn't be starker differentials between the two parties. And I look at Chris Christie, we played his clip attacking Nikki Haley for basically saying, listen, I don't agree with everything with Donald Trump, but I agree with him far more than I disagree, and I agree with Donald Trump more than Joe Biden. I'm going to full-heartedly endorse him. And that Chris Christie comes out and attacks that, and in essence is siding with the radical left, surprised me, actually. But not you, I bet.
Not all that much, if we really look into it. And I didn't love Nikki Haley's speech, but it was probably the speech she needed to deliver to her, as we talked about last night on Fox Nation, to her supporters who are still skeptical of Trump. So if she was to say, rah, rah, I'm Trump all the way, they'd say, well, who's this person? She reluctantly said, I'm for this guy because I won't be for the other guy, did her duty in that context to supporting the person who will advance, as you said, David, common sense solutions. One more thing on J.D. Vance and his allegiance. I don't know. I just remember he did raise his right hand to defend the Constitution of the United States as a United States Marine, volunteering as a private. So I think he knows a little bit about pledging allegiance to the Constitution.
Can I ask you, you know what? He's never run on that. I didn't know that until he got the nod from Donald Trump, because he's never promoted it.
No, he hasn't.
No.
I think that maybe that would be a decent side part of his conversation tonight. But he did it the way most Americans do it. Like I did ROTC and became an officer. He enlisted out of high school, because that's what guys that we know from where we came from did to go up and out. They enlist in the Marine Corps. They get some years of experience. They travel around the globe. They do some tough things, and that sends them like rocket fuel into the rest of their life.
No doubt. David Webb, Pete Hegseth, thanks for being
Sean.
here.
Great to see you.